Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to our next adventure with me, Jason. So, first things first, if you didn't watch the last video on the general tier list ranking of all the Virgin Voyages sailings that I've done so far, hit pause, go check it out, then come back, okay? Because we're going to pick up exactly where we left off on that one. Except now, instead of doing the general ranking of things, right? In other words, you see this, you say, hey, I want to do this, you book it, and that's kind of going to be your baseline experience. We're going to be telling you about my own ranking of each thing that I did, which essentially is like you have that baseline, but now you've done all the research and planning and considerations and tips and tricks that I know and did in order to get that outcome. I hope it kind of ends up getting you excited for the future videos that I'm going to do on each of these individual sailings, where I'm going to share with you everything that I did and found out in order to make it so awesome on the whole. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. The Fire and Sunset Soiree. This one, I have to say, I had an amazing time. Okay, it was really awesome. It was my first time on a cruise ship and cruising and with Virgin Voyages and so and so and so and so. But the fact that it was 4 nights ended up being why I had such massive regrets. I had a positive regret here. After day one, I said, "Oh my word! Like, what have I done? I've only booked a 4-night sailing." So, like, I think if I should have maybe just booked another one. If I knew better, I could go back in time. I'd be like, "Hey, book the next sailing that's after this. Do your back-to-back. Commit to this. You're gonna love it." So, I had a great time. The ports were fantastic. I'd done all my research on the ship to know really how to get the most out of it before boarding. And then once I was on the ship, I essentially was just kind of taking what I had read up and researched and applying it, and it just worked out great. Plus, I had now the actual experience, in real life, so to speak, on what it is I could be doing on the ship and how to really get the most out of it. So go watch the videos on that. And yeah, remember when I mentioned, like, yeah, it's a short sailing, so, there can be cancellations or because of sicknesses and stuff. Crew got sick and they rescheduled things, which was great, but unfortunately, I had to kind of pick favorites there. So I'd move this up to an A plus because, yep, some of those fundamental things, they're fundamental for a reason. And as great of a time as I had and all the research that I did and all the cool stuff, it kind of holds it back from being an S tier because it's just too short. But it's fun and you should do it if you can. Really, don't think that because I say it's too short, you should therefore not do it. It's incredible. The second sailing that I did with Virgin Voyages was the Southeastern Caribbean and Antilles. I gave it the highest score I could possibly give it, even for a baseline of the S tier. So I can't give it a higher tier already, even after my experience, right? But what I would say for this is that S tier, remember, all these general scores were like based on, I think, the average outcome someone will get, right? And I think what you want to now try and do is to minimize your likelihood of going below the average. So you want to either have the average experience or even better. For sure, the important thing about this sailing is knowing how to make the best out of the layout of the actual itinerary, okay? So maximizing the best use of each sea day and where its placement is in the sailing, as well as the different ports. So go check the video when it comes out where I kind of go through that. And not to mention the ideas of what you can do in each port and whether you should do it through the ship, third party, or DIY, because where possible, you can probably do more, spend less, and have an amazing time. So go check that out, but it stays in the S tier, easy. Third sailing, right, this is the one that ended up getting the lowest score of all of them in the previous video. This is the Irresistible Med. I do have to say, yes, I put in just like a crazy amount of time and effort into researching every single port and trying to make the most out of it. And yeah, the payoff was I had a great time. So yes, Marina de Carrera is still amongst the worst ports I think possible, but I had one of my best days there. You'll want to check out the video on this no matter what, for sure. I'd say that my own experience of this was A minus. I really made the most out of my time in Toulon, my time in Ajaccio, Marina de Carrera. I planned my logistics super well and just had the best day, possible. It was great. It was tons of fun. So go check that video out for the ideas, for things you can do, things that might maybe come across as daunting, but they're really simple and I'll explain it. And that way you should have the confidence to try and do it yourself. I hope you'll end up in that situation. So go check it out. This is really, I guess, the underdog's tale for this. So A-, easy. Then we have the Greek island glow. Now this is where there were tenders, right, for Santorini, for Mykonos, but I knew by this stage kind of how their system works, all the little tricks I could do, and so I always had the earliest tenders possible, so I never wasted time on the ship when I could have been going on land. I also did a lot of research for example, like I mentioned, Santorini, but all of them where, and I'll again use Santorini as example, I was able to save over around $1,000 because I did several things that they had listed as shore things or excursions, and I was able to do it without the ship and have, basically not spent that much at all. I think all in all, instead of $1,000 or around $1,000, it cost about 100 and a bit, 150 to 200. So massive, and that was just Santorini. So go check out this video. There's tons of cool stuff you can do. You don't have to be paying an absolute fortune. They are really trying to take advantage of several things. The tender, which I just hate. That's why I would never do it. I don't want them to be rewarded for this idea of trying to monetize being able to get off the ship first on the tenders because you're booking an overpriced excursion with them. That's not cool. But I just think there's also a lot of fat you can trim from when you try and DIY things, or at least find a smarter way of doing it. Because yeah, when you do it through a ship or something, you're doing it with large groups, which means that when you need to get on a bus, so you got to wait for everyone, and everyone gets on the bus and they'll wait a bit and stuff. And so all these minutes spent add up, and next thing you know, you could have done another excursion or two had you just done it yourself, because you're way more efficient in a smaller number than a large group. Just the way it is. Go watch it. I had an amazing time. This easily was a A+ experience. I loved it. One of my favorite sailings by far. All right, then we had my back-to-back, right? So the first one was the Sunset in the Les Antilles. So that one was fantastic. I unfortunately didn't have the best time I think I could have had in Curacao. That was because I actually did something through the cruise ship, much to knowing way better than to do that. But in my case, I did what I wanted to do, except the cost difference is going to be about $5 to $10, and so I figured I'll just do it through the cruise line. So my logic was good. Unfortunately, this was just a case of like the promise and the delivery were just in different universes, unfortunately. And I was really annoyed by that. And I actually left this excursion early. So go watch the video on that so you don't make that mistake. And also just to get some ideas on what you can do, because the ports here, these are strong contender ports. They are fantastic. But I'm going to leave it at A- because that was my experience. Unfortunately, I messed up on Curacao. Moving on, it's A- still, and that's still a high score. So I had a great time. A+ over here with the Southeastern Caribbean Isles. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, S tier, easy. This is one where you're going to have several amazing ports, and also remember, I'm not including Guadeloupe, several incredible ports, and you're going to have so many things to choose from to do in them that you just need to know what are those things, how much does the ship charge if you're going to do it through the ship, how much do the third-party operators charge, do you need to pick one or the other, is there a way to DIY it, maybe group size will be the determinant factor there. And then I think just to kind of be honest with yourself and know what you're getting into and how to, I guess, pick the best thing for you. I can tell you now in Tortola, in Castries, there are so many amazing things you could do, but you are going to only have time for maybe one, maximum two of them. So go check the video out for this one, because I think it will help give you better insight as to what your options are and how to do it. And also, I guess, where to save some money. So I had an amazing time. S tier, easy. And last, but certainly not least, the Adriatic Sea and Greek Gems. This one, look, I had an amazing time. The layout of this is actually something I really like. It's embarkation day, day at sea, 4 ports in a row, day at sea, disembarkation. So I really like that you have like a day 1 of being at sea and a penultimate day of being at sea. But wow, 4 ports in a row was tough. For Kotor, I had the earliest tender time, so go watch on that, because again, you want to know how you can try and secure that for yourself. And some ideas on what to do in Kotor. There are some obvious ones that like the ship will offer, okay? that a lot of third party, and you'll see reviews. And so if you go onto like all these different apps, they'll say, yeah, no, this is super popular, this is great. I'm not taking away from that. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of things you can do in the time that you're there, and you definitely don't necessarily need to go through any other third party or whatever to do it. So you'll probably find it really interesting to see what I did and how much fun I had. And yeah, it was an awesome day. Corfu, it just has an intrinsic issue with the logistics. There's nothing I can do to fix that, unfortunately, but I had a great time. Split's going to be a great one for you to hear about, because in Split, I did several things, saved tons of money, and it's also a great example where, unfortunately, fortunately, because I'm crazy enough to do that much detail, I looked at like traffic flow, and I realized that, well, if I do this thing at this time and swap it instead of doing that, I ended up saving myself a fortune of time. So I did something that typically takes people 3 to 4 hours to do in 1 hour. And it wasn't because I cut myself short on what I did. It's because I just swapped the order that people are typically doing it in. And little things like that just save you a fortune of time. And then again, knowing that, oh, if I want to go to this place, I can go here and take a boat, and which company to use and stuff saves you a fortune of money too. So it made it really easy. Dubrovnik as well was fantastic, so go and watch this. I will say though that, yeah, Piraeus just makes us annoying, and all the stuff I said in the previous video on that. And I wish it was an 8-day one, because 8-night one, because I wish there was a sea day in between to not make it so tough on you, but I had an amazing time nonetheless. Easy A-. That's my ranking. That's my personal ranking, my experience of each of these sailings. You can go watch the previous video, maybe open up in another tab or something and compare the differences there. But remember, the main difference maker there is that I spent way too much time and effort into planning for these, but on the other side, I had an amazing time. And yeah, I hope that the videos I'm going to release in the future on these sailings will save you tons of time and effort and money, and just have an amazing time in general, because I wish that the videos I'm going to release on these were there when I was planning, because it would have just saved me a fortune of time. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing another series where I'm going to do sort of the A to Z basics of Virgin Voyages, as well as my sort of like tips and tricks or efficient way of doing sort of each of these different things. If you found this entertaining or useful, or want to just be encouraging, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave a comment below, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that the next time the next video comes up, you're told about it, right? Anyway, that's it from me. Have a great day.